back to another edition of the FSU Simulcast. Today we're going to go behind enemy lines and talk about Florida Gators recruiting. Um, I've had some conversations with a couple friends on this, a couple Gator friends. Recently listened to the Noelcast. If you don't know what that is, you can find the Noelcast on SoundCloud. It's the guy that edits TomahawkNation.com. And another dude as well. Either way, they do a great job. I have no affiliation with them, but if I hear something good, I'm just gonna pass it along. But between the conversations, that podcast, and even the chatter on Twitter, this seemed like a relevant topic to talk about because there's a lot of talk between Gators and Noles and even Bulldogs on Twitter, especially about how the Florida Gators are just getting absolutely destroyed and lapped in recruiting. Okay. And some Gator fans are in denial. They really are. They're really in denial. They want to point to the fact that the Gators have won the past two SEC East Division titles, so everything's okay. Ignoring the fact that division has been a fucking dumpster fire the past two seasons. Just have their head buried in the sand, thinking that, oh, recruitings don't matter. We'll just coach up the 3-stars. Yada, 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 yada. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at their rankings here on 24/7 once again. And you're going to have to scroll down a little bit before you get to the old Gators. So let's keep going. Keep going. There they are at 19. All right. Now 19 is not absolutely like atrocious in general, but for Florida it is. I feel like sometimes that I'm more of a Gator fan than some Gators, honestly, because Florida should be higher. They're better than that, or better than this, I should say. Now, they do have room for improvement at just 15 recruits, but from what I read and from what I hear on that podcast I listen to, and different articles that come from this site and other recruiting websites, is that Florida doesn't have a ton of traction with a lot of top recruits that are currently uncommitted. They'll probably pick up a couple blue chips possibly to end the cycle, but they probably have no shot at even getting in the top 10. And at Florida, that is inexcusable. The guys on Noelcast, they sounded almost like Gator fans too. I mean, on one hand, they were kind of doing it just to kind of poke fun at the Gators, talking about their struggles in recruiting. But on the other hand, they were like, this is shameful. Florida should not be this poor in recruiting. They have the resources to get it done, the money, not literally paying the recruits, but the money required to go recruit, with the staff and the bus rides, plane fare, dinners, whatever. Now they finally started to catch up in facilities with the IPF they got earlier this year. So for Coach Mack and his staff to be this far down is absolutely pathetic. But here we go. Let's take a closer look. They have 7 4-stars and 8 3-stars, and of course 0 5-stars. Now let's compare that to their biggest rivals, Georgia and Florida State. Let's go back up. They actually have 1 more 4-star, Florida that is, but FSU has 3 more 5-stars, and FSU is actually in on about 5 to 7 blue chip recruits. Like I'm talking Marvin Wilson, the number 1 D tackle, Levi Jones, a top-notch linebacker. Florida State is probably going to close pretty strongly from what I gather. And they could pick up another 3 to 4 blue chip players. It wouldn't be surprising. And one of them could be another 5-star. Okay? But then, at least for this cycle, the bigger disparity is Georgia. Look at this. 17 compared to Florida's 7 and 2 5-stars. So they have 19 blue chip commits compared to Florida's, 7? 19 to 7. Georgia's just killing it this cycle. And that's not even the worst of it. I'm just looking at the blue chip. It's like, what tiers are these blue chip commits in? Because sometimes you can get some of the lower ranked 4 stars, sometimes you can get the higher ranked 4 stars. So let's see where Florida falls as far as the player rankings. What type of blue chippers are they getting? So let's take a look at that real quickly. All right, here we are on the player rankings page of 24/7. Now, what we're going to do is play this fun little game where I scroll down until I hit the first Florida Gators commit. So here we go. Here we go. It's just silly seeing every other one's Ohio State, Bama. But anyways, here we go. We're scrolling right along. Haven't seen a Florida Gator commit yet, have you? No, me neither. Let's go to the next batch here. Loady, loady, load. Okay. All right, keep your eyes peeled for that Florida Gators logo on the right side. No, not yet. Keep going. Oh, okay. Well, none in the top 100. Let's keep going. No, not yet. Sorry if you hear me punching the key to scroll down. Almost. There we go. Number 130. Strong side defensive end, Zachary Carter. The Gators' top commit is the 130th best player, or the 130th ranked player on 24/7. That is ridiculous for Florida to have that low of a top recruit. That is just inexcusable for Coach Mack and his staff. And from what I've read on, I think, a Rivals article, and I think the Nolecast might have mentioned it as well, is that some of these recruits, when asked, why do you think, some of the top recruits, why do you think that the Gators are struggling in recruiting compared to, their history? Because they've had a long history of recruiting top 5, top 10 classes, no problem, pulling in the best players in the country at different times. And some of them said, quite frankly, hey, they didn't offer me till, end of my junior year, beginning of my senior year. That's not how you do recruiting these days. You don't offer these kids when they're upperclassmen in high school. You hit them when they're freshmen, sophomore. If you offer too late, you're already falling behind in building relationships. Meanwhile, these other schools like FSU, Georgia, whoever, are offering early and building relationships. Now, that's just a few recruits, and that's just one reason they gave. But I found that interesting coming from the mouths of these top recruits themselves. Maybe that is the problem, or one of the problems. They're not offering early enough. Other than that, I've heard, as far as Mac's organization skills, like rumblings that the Nolecast mentioned, is simply not as organized as you think a Nick Saban type guy would be. It's very interesting. It is. But let's play one more game, and let's see how many Florida State and Georgia recruits are ranked above Florida's top recruit. All right, so let's play that game. Let's keep track of that. All right. There's one FSU, one Georgia, so 1 and 1. Let's keep going. Keep going. Two for Georgia. 3, 4 for Georgia. 5 for Georgia. 2 for FSU, so 5 and 2. 5 and 2, 5 and 2. Hopefully I can remember this while we're scrolling. 5 and 3, 6 and 3, 6 and 4, 7 and 4, 8 and 4, 9 and 4, 10 and 4, 10 and 5, 10 and 6, and 10-7. There are 10 Georgia commits rated higher than Florida's top commit, and there are 7 Florida State commitments ranked higher than Florida's top commit. I mean, it's right here. If this is the trend, if this continues for, well, I don't know, another cycle or two, Mac is just simply going to get owned by the upper tier teams, the elite teams. If Georgia continues to recruit like this compared to Florida, they're going to flip the script in this series. Now, I know some people are going to be quick to say, Mark Richt recruited his ass off during his Georgia tenure. He always had good classes. That is true. But guess what? Florida, typically, during Rick's tenure, had as good of a class as Georgia, if not better, more often than not. But now, I just showed you in this cycle, Florida's not keeping pace. They're not outpacing Georgia. I mean, let alone Florida State. So I'm curious to see how this goes in the next year or two. Because at this rate, Florida will beat probably the teams it should beat, and that's fine. Hey, nothing wrong with that. But when they run into FSU or Bama, if Georgia keeps this kind of gap that this cycle shows, Florida's gonna lose to those elite teams more often than not. And if the standard at Florida is a national championship or competing for a national championship, which it should be, I know a lot of expectations have been lowered these past 5, 6 years. But that should be the expectation of Florida. Compete for a playoff spot, compete for a national championship. Okay, there's no shame in losing to Bama. But at Florida, you should be at least keep the game semi-close, not get absolutely waxed. And as much as I like FSU beating the dog shit out of Florida these past couple seasons, and the majority of Jimbo's tenure, Florida should be able to at least keep those games close, if not win them. And if this type of recruiting continues, Florida's fucked. Like this is not good for them. So anyway, that wraps it up. That I think I showed enough. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, just came to mind. I'm not going to pull up the tweet, but the Twitter handle onlygators.com. So this is coming from a Gator here. I just showed you the Florida State and Georgia recruits ranked higher than Florida's top recruit. Well, if you just look at the SEC as a whole, the SEC has 36 recruits rated higher than Florida's top recruit. So not only is Florida doing poorly relative to Florida standards in recruiting, but their competition is beating that ass. So going forward, man, I mean, enjoy these 2 SEC East titles. I really don't know um, how many more they're going to win under Mac if this continues. Mac's really going to have to close strong, and from what I gather, that's not really happening. He's not gaining a lot of traction. So we'll see. I mean, it's amusing, and if you're smart enough to realize, hey, recruiting does matter. It's not the only thing, but it's probably the most important thing in college football. It's definitely the lifeblood of a program. And if you want to win on a consistent basis at an elite level, you have to recruit at an elite level. If not, okay, you might win 8, 9, hey, maybe even go in 10 games, win 10 games with a, not so great schedule, and your 2 losses are to the 2 more elite programs on your schedule. But hopefully for the Gators, this isn't a sign of things to come, because, I mean, that's a big disparity between Georgia and Florida and Florida State and Florida. That's, I mean, their broken record. Their top recruit is ranked 130. This is not the Florida I grew up knowing. Usually I saw Gator heads littered up and down this top 25, top 50. Like, wow, man. Well, that's all. I just wanted to, go behind enemy lines, seeing how Florida was doing in recruiting. And I figure it's a relevant topic. This is the recruiting season. It's officially the off season, unless you're a Clemson or Alabama fan. Anyways, that's it. That's all. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Um, no, I guess not. I guess not. I mean, you know, honestly, I Mac winning the SEC East titles might be actually bad for the Gators in the long term, because those titles might have bought him more time. And if he continues to recruit at this standard for a longer period of time, the talent gap will continue to grow between he and the other elite schools that he'll face each year in the SEC, whether it's Bama or Georgia, as long as Georgia keeps doing what they're doing on the recruiting trail. And of course, FSU. Like, that's fine, win 8, 9 games, but if you can't even compete with the elite teams, what are you doing? What are you doing? The goal should be competing for a national title at Florida, at least sniffing the college football playoff towards the end of November. And when you play elite teams, at least being in the game and not getting blown out. All right, that's it. Don't want to be any more of a broken record than I've already been, but if you're a first time visitor, feel free to subscribe. If you're a Gator fan, you probably hate me right now. But look, I mean, you saw the numbers. Coach Mack and his staff is not doing, they are not doing as well as they should be. And there's antivirus. And there's another one. All right, I'm protected. And with that, I'm out.